Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I will be sharing a card with a primary focus on using fancy foils from Gina K Designs and Therm O Web. Recently, Gina released a new laminator machine she calls Fuse, prompting me to bring out my dusty laminator. Unfortunately, the Fuse is currently out of stock, but I made sure to hit the notify me button. I have already applied the Duo Transfer Gel on top of the Flower Garden stencil from Gina K Designs. The Duo gel does need time to dry, which is why I applied the gel off screen. The gel does go on white, but turns clear and sticky once dried. The drying time does depend on how much is applied to your project. The thicker the layer, the longer it'll take to dry. This is what the Duo looks like once it's had time to dry. I am going to use the Radiant Red panel today, but I have recorded the foiling process using the color Glimmering Gold. Please note, this foil is only compatible with the laminator and not to be confused with the Glimmering hot foil system, the machine from Spellbinders, and I believe Crafter's Companion also has a hot foiling system as well. That will not work with the fancy foils or Deco foils. I'm going to cut my foil down using a T-ruler and a craft knife, and I will preheat my laminator. I will place my panel in a carrier sheet by Therm O Web and run it through my laminator twice. You don't need to run it through twice, but for the sake of video recording, I went ahead and did it. It doesn't hurt. Now it's time for my favorite part of the process, and that is the peel and reveal. Look how stunning this is, and there's so much shine and glittery goodness without the mess. As for the negative piece, instead of throwing it away, Therm O Web offers toner sheets you could use with your negative piece. I will not show that process today, but I wanted to mention it in the video. I decided to tone down my panel using Gina K Designs dye ink in the colors Lemon Drop, Sweet Mango, Tangerine Twist, and later I bring in Dark Sage. I wanted the card to have more of a moody look for fall. Starting with the color Lemon Drop, I will ink blend the center of my panel using a blender brush. I'm also ink blending on top of my waffle flower stencil mat. And to hold my ink cubes, I'm using the silicone mini ink holder from Simon Says Stamp. The foil will resist the ink like it would if you were doing the emboss resist technique. After applying the lemon drop, I'm going to switch to the sweet mango, and I'm going to ink blend that into the lemon drop. Once the sweet mango has been applied to the panel, I will go ahead and switch to Tangerine Twist. I could have left the panel as is, but I wanted more depth on my project, so I decided to bring in Dark Sage. I could have used browns or even light grays, but sometimes I try to bring in colors I don't normally gravitate towards. I try to challenge myself to use colors outside of my comfort zone, and Dark Sage is definitely one of them. Once I'm happy with my ink blending, I'm going to lightly wipe the excess ink off the foil using a microfiber cloth. Be sure to use a light hand as foil can easily tear. And here's a screenshot of the colors that I used during my ink blending. Earlier in the video, I forgot to mention how I cut my panel out, and that was with my Gina K Designs Master Layouts 1 die set. The die set also cuts out the layering piece that I have ink blended in the color Black Soot using Distress Oxide ink and a blending brush. I am also using my Gina K Designs liquid adhesive in a fine tip applicator bottle to adhere the pieces together. I will cut out the word thanks from black glitter cardstock, and I will cut out 3 shadow layers using the thanks die from Gina K Designs. Cutting the shadow layer out 3 times will give our thanks the dimension this card needs. Again, I'm using my liquid adhesive to adhere all 3 layers together, and then I'll also use the liquid adhesive to adhere the thanks to our shadow layer. You could use spray adhesive or even double-sided adhesive, but I find liquid adhesive to be fast and secure. So it's my go-to product. Next, I will cut some foliage to place behind the word thanks. Using the Foliage Filler Die from Gina K Designs, I will cut 3 leaves out of vellum, and I will use 2 of the leaves that were left over from a different card project. I do save my scraps because you never know when they will come in handy on another card. I will fiddle and fuss before adhering everything together. I do struggle with placement, but with the power of video editing, I will fast forward my struggle. To make things a little easier, I did decide to use thin foam squares to pop up the thanks, which allowed me to easily tuck my foliage. Some of the foliage I do cut the stems off, but once tucked behind the word thanks, you won't even notice. To give myself some wiggle room, I do place liquid adhesive on top of the foam squares, and I'll bring in my T ruler to make sure the word is straight. Again, I'm going to go ahead and use some scissors to cut the ends of the stems off so I can easily tuck the foliage behind the word thanks. I'm going to use the liquid adhesive to adhere it only at the bottom because vellum is really finicky and it will show your liquid adhesive even if your adhesive is clear. So I'm only going to apply it towards the areas that will be tucked under the word. Because I still have the liquid adhesive on the foam square, I can still lift up the word thanks and tuck my vellum leaves. Here is the leaf that I used on a different card project. It was part of my scraps, and I'm going to go ahead and tuck that between the 2 vellum pieces. I will repeat the same process on the lower foliage. The stems were a little too long, so I'm going to go ahead and cut the stems off to easily tuck them under the word thanks. Again, trying to hide the liquid adhesive so you don't see it. Now we're going to bring in the Misty. And from the Autumn Doodle stamp set from Gina K Designs, we are going to use the sentiment for everything and heat emboss it on black cardstock using white embossing powder. We're going to prep our cardstock by using the anti-static powder tool. Mine is from Tailored Expressions. And then I'm going to stamp using Versamark ink, which is a clear sticky ink. I'm going to bring in my white embossing powder. I'm going to preheat my heat tool off screen. And then I'm going to go ahead and heat emboss the sentiment. To cut out my sentiment, I'm going to use the Sentiment Strip Die Set from Gina K Designs. And I also used my microfiber cloth to kind of wipe off any of the excess anti-static powder. And I'm going to use my T ruler to line my sentiment up and my reverse tweezers. The sentiment strip did have double-sided adhesive, so I was able to just peel off the release liner and adhere it down. Today's panel is A2 in size. It is a top folding 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch card. I'm going to use my liquid adhesive to adhere my panel to the card base. For added bling, I'm going to use my satin gold pearls from Studio Katia, and I'm going to adhere them with liquid adhesive, and I'm going to use my embellishment wand, also from Studio Katia, to pick up the pearls and place them on top of my liquid adhesive. And that will complete today's card. I hope this inspires you to bring out your laminator, and if you don't have one, I would recommend you heading on over to Gina K Designs website and hitting the Notify Me button on her new Fuse laminator. I would love for you to like and subscribe to my channel. It really helps. Thanks again for watching. Bye.